There are 4 small outboards hanging in your local marine dealer right now that are secretly the exact same engine. Not similar, not built to the same price point. The same engine poured on the same line in the same factory in Japan, then bolted under 4 different cowlings, painted 4 different colors, and stamped with 4 different prices. One might cost you $2,000. The same engine in a fancier badge can cost several hundred more. But there is exactly one brand on that wall that refuses to play this game, that designs and builds every outboard it sells start to finish. And the reason traces back to one strange little engine from 1964. Here's the thing you need to understand right away, because I am not going to waste your time. The name on the cowling of a small outboard is almost never the company that built it. So by the end of this, you will know which badges all funnel into one Japanese factory, the one number engineered to fool you, the 2 specs that decide whether you overpaid, and the single brand that still builds its own. Let us get into it. Start with the wall. Walk into any boat show or marine dealer and look at that row of small portable outboards. A Mercury here, a Mariner there, a Nissan on the used rack, maybe an old Evinrude trade-in in the corner. Different badges, different colors, different prices, a whole healthy little ecosystem of competitors. That feeling is the product. That feeling is the trick. Because most of those motors are not competing at all, they are the same engine. Here's who actually builds them. There's a Japanese company called Tohatsu, and most American boaters have barely heard the name, which is exactly the point. Tohatsu has built outboards since 1956, when it rolled out Japan's first mass-produced outboard. It still builds all of its engines in Japan, has put more than 5 million on the water, and in 2026, it marks 70 years of doing it. It is quietly one of the biggest builders of small outboards in the world. Now watch how the badges connect. Back in 1988, Tohatsu and Brunswick, the parent of Mercury, formed a joint venture specifically to build smaller outboards. The result is that Mercury's small portables, up to around 30 horsepower, are built by that Tohatsu operation, and the ones under 20 horsepower are essentially designed by Tohatsu. Mariner is just Mercury's other badge, so right away, 2 of your rival brands are the same company selling the same Tohatsu engine. Then there is Nissan. And here is a fact that catches people off guard. Nissan never built a single outboard. From 1984 until the brand was discontinued in 2014, every Nissan Marine outboard sold in North America was a rebadged Tohatsu, identical down to the part numbers, different only in sticker and color. And for years, there was a 4th. Starting around 2011, Tohatsu also built the small Evinrudes, 15 horsepower and under for BRP until BRP shut Evinrude down completely in 2020. So line it up: Mercury, Mariner, Nissan, Evinrude. 4 names you'd swear were rivals, and underneath every one, the same Tohatsu engine. And here's the kicker: Tohatsu sells that same motor under its own name too, usually for less, because you skip the badge tax. Now, I know what the sharp guys in the comments are thinking, because it's the smartest pushback there is. Same factory doesn't have to mean the same engine. 2 brands can share a plant and still order different parts. Normally you'd be right. But on these small portables, the engines aren't just built in the same place, they're mechanically identical. Pull the cowling off an under 15 horsepower Mercury, a Nissan, and a Tohatsu, and a trained mechanic can't tell you which is which. The propellers interchange. The service parts interchange. It's one motor wearing 4 costumes at whatever price they think you'll pay. So if the badge is just a costume, how do you know if you overpaid? You stop reading the name and start reading what's underneath it. The first thing to ignore is the most prominent number on the whole motor, because on a small outboard, it might be the least honest number there is. The horsepower badge. specifically that magic 9.9. Here's the trick. Almost nobody tells you. On most brands, the 9.9, the 15, and the 20 are the same engine, same block, same displacement. The 9.9 is just a 15 or a 20 choked down with a smaller carburetor throat, a restrictor, or different fuel mapping. So why 9.9 instead of a clean 10? Pure regulation. Many inland waters cap you at under 10 horsepower, and in plenty of places, a motor under 10 skips registration or a license, so the makers shave off a tenth and unlock a whole market. That 0.9 isn't an engineering number, it's a legal costume. And here's the flip. The buyer of a 9.9 is very often getting the heavier duty 15 or 20 engine underneath just strangled down on purpose. So forget the horsepower badge. The two specs that actually decide whether a small outboard is worth your money are the ones marketing never puts in big letters. The first is displacement, because there's no replacement for displacement. You can find two motors side by side rated within a hair of each other, a 9.8 and a 9.9, where one has barely over 200 cubic centimeters and the other, built on that bigger 15 and 20 block, has well over 300. Same horsepower on the cowling, completely different engine underneath. The bigger one makes more low-end torque to shove a heavy dinghy onto the move. It loafs instead of screaming at the top of its range, so it runs cooler and lasts longer, and it usually carries a bigger alternator. When the displacement is small for the horsepower, that motor is working hard for its rating. When it's generous, somebody built it to last. The second spec is how it's built to survive saltwater and how it's fed. Salt is what kills small outboards. The good ones have real corrosion protection, sealed connections, quality anodes, and marine coatings. The cheap ones cut exactly there, where you can't see it, and rot from the inside. Then there's fuel. A carbureted motor is cheap and simple to fix in the field, but brutally sensitive to ethanol gas sitting in it, while fuel injection costs more and is harder to fix on the water, but shrugs off that stale fuel problem, one of the most common reasons small outboards end up in the shop. That choice, not the badge, decides whether your motor still starts on the first pull in 10 years. If this is already changing how you see that wall, hit subscribe, because I tear into the marine industry like this every other day. Now drop real motors into 3 buckets: overpriced, honest value, and worth it. Overpriced is the easy one, paying a premium badge price for a motor that is mechanically a Tohatsu. If a Mercury or Mariner portable sits there for noticeably more than the identical Tohatsu beside it, a chunk of that money is buying the logo. To be fair, Mercury has a huge dealer and service network, and for some buyers that is worth a few dollars, but you are paying for the network, not a better engine, because it is the same engine. Honest value is often the Tohatsu under its own name, the same motor frequently for less, the quiet steel most people walk past because they do not recognize the name. And then the worth it bucket, the motors that are not a scam and not just a badge, where you pay for real in-house engineering. Which brings us to the brand that refuses to play any of these games. The brand is Honda. The other major players that genuinely design and build their own outboards are Yamaha and Suzuki, companies that do not flip through a shared catalog and order an engine with their logo on it. But Honda has the story, so here is the 1964 one I promised you. In 1964, Honda built the GB30, widely credited as the world's first 4-stroke outboard, adapted from a small industrial motor. At the time, almost every outboard on the market was a 2-stroke, because 2-strokes were lighter and cheaper, and Honda could have taken that same easy path. It refused, on principle. Founder Soichiro Honda had a flat rule that products used on the water should not pollute the water, and a 2-stroke outboard dumps oil and fuel straight into it. So Honda went the hard, expensive, heavier 4-stroke way when no one else would, and it has never to this day, built a two-stroke outboard. By 1985, it had the first full line of four-strokes in America. In 2001, it built the world's first 225 horsepower four-stroke and put car-style VTEC into a marine engine. Honda is the largest engine manufacturer on the planet, and it builds its outboards in its own plants, top to bottom. And here's the twist that ties the whole thing in a knot. Remember Tohatsu quietly building the small engines for everybody? Its larger four-stroke engines, the bigger horsepower models, are themselves rebadged Hondas. That's why Tohatsu's own model codes split in two. The ones starting with MFS are engines Tohatsu designed, and the ones starting with BFT are Hondas wearing a Tohatsu badge. So sit with that. On the small end, Tohatsu engines wear Mercury and Nissan and Evinrude costumes. On the big end, Tohatsu engines are actually Hondas in a costume. The one brand that refuses to put its name on someone else's engine is so good at building engines that it builds the ones the rebadgers sell. I'll be honest, the way I'd want a guy to be honest with me. Honda isn't a saint, and it isn't cheap, and Yamaha and Suzuki will run you up there too. But here's the line that matters. With those three, you're paying for the engine. Everywhere else on that wall, a big chunk of what you're paying for is the paint on the cowling. So once you have picked an honestly built motor, here is how to make it last, because this matters more than any badge. Salt destroys any small outboard if you treat it wrong, and most guys do. After every saltwater run, flush fresh water through the engine with muffs or a tank, so you clean the cooling passages, not just the outside, and make sure the telltale stream is flowing strong, because salt clogs it. If it is carbureted, run the carburetor dry or drain it any time it will sit more than a week or two, because stale ethanol gas gumming up a carburetor is one of the fastest ways to kill a small outboard. Store it tilted straight down so the leg drains. And once a year, change the gear oil and check the color, because milky oil means water is getting past a seal, and check the sacrificial anodes, the cheap chunks of metal that corrode so your engine does not. So the next time you walk up to that wall, you will not see brands anymore. You will see one Tohatsu engine wearing 4 costumes, a horsepower number that is really a legal fiction, and the 2 specs underneath, displacement and build quality, that are the only truth that matters. And you will know Honda, the one brand that refuses to rebadge anything, is so good at it that it quietly builds the big engines its rivals sell. The badge was always theater. You never overpaid because you were dumb. You overpaid because the whole system was built so you would never take the cowling off and look underneath.